He always woke up at the same minute. 4:17. As if his body had its own clock nailed to trauma. The room was dark, and the streetlight slipped through the cracks of the broken blinds, drawing crooked bars across the stained ceiling. Marcos knew every stain, every crack, every sound. The drip from the kitchen faucet was the most faithful. Drip, drip, drip. He never fixed it. It wasn't lack of money. It was a kind of pact. As long as that thing kept dripping, he would keep being there too, stuck in the same place, like life had been put on hold until he paid a debt that came with no receipt. Most mornings the nightmare arrived before he could even open his eyes. Headlights out of nowhere. A steering wheel yanked hard. The feeling of metal scraping. His brother's scream, short, cut off. Then the dull impact. And then the silence. The silence always came. That morning, nothing came. No image. No sound. No memory. And that was worse. Marcos sat on the edge of the bed. The cold floor bit the soles of his feet. He breathed in a controlled rhythm. In for 3. Out for 4. An old technique, learned when sleeping too deeply meant dying. His chest ached in a discreet way, like his heart was tired of beating with the same guilt stuck to it. He got up slowly. His body cracked in different places. Age charged interest, and it felt like it wasn't only his body getting older. In the narrow kitchen, he splashed cold water on his face. The cracked mirror gave him back a man who looked older than he was. Hollow eyes, unshaven, an expression permanently caught between alertness and surrender. He wasn't living. He was maintaining. He pulled on a dark shirt, a worn jacket, sneakers warped by constant use, clothes chosen to draw no attention, to blend in, to vanish into the city's current. He grabbed a wallet with documents that said nothing about him. Cash counted. Always cash. Never cards. Never trails. Before leaving, he touched the inner pocket of his jacket. The small knife was there. Not a promise of violence. A reminder. A fragment of the life he tried to bury. The hallway smelled of mildew, old grease, abandonment. The bulb at the far end blinked, fighting to stay lit. No one there cared about anything. People came and went without names, without stories. Marcos liked that. He went down the stairs slowly. Each step creaked in its own way. He knew every sound. Predictability was safety. Outside, the sky was still dark. The city breathed slowly, like a huge animal waking up piece by piece. Marcos liked that hour. Fewer questions. Fewer eyes. Less chance of crossing someone who could recognize the man he used to be. At the bus stop, he boarded without looking at anyone. Sat in the back. Watched reflections in the front glass. Not paranoia. Instinct. Instinct doesn't unlearn. The wholesale market sat in a forgotten part of town. Warehouses, concrete, trucks, diesel. The work was always the same. Lift, stack, move, constant wait. The supervisor never asked anything. Paid at the end of the shift, bills in hand. Marcos liked the weight of the notes, the dry sound of cash being counted. It was real, not a promise. Mid-afternoon, while hoisting a box heavier than it should have been, he felt the warning. Not pain. Not fear. That unease that started at the base of his neck and slid down his back, like cold with no weather behind it. Something was off. He scanned without looking like he scanned. Reflections in metal, in glass, in the chrome of a truck. Normal people. Workers. Drivers. Nothing. Still, the warning stayed. As the sun sank, it deepened, as if the city had shifted tone without telling him. On the way home, he changed his route. Took streets he didn't need. Cut through alleys. Crossed a busy avenue, and came back on quieter roads. watched storefronts, reflections in parked cars, shadows stretched along walls. Nothing obvious. And yet his body stayed tight. At the building he paused before going in. Pretended to check his phone. Listened. Silence. He went up. The hallway light flickered more than usual. The air felt heavy. Marcos walked slowly, heart speeding with each step. Near his door he noticed something he hadn't seen in years. A shadow on the other side. 3 knocks. Dry. Precise. His heart jumped before he could stop it. His hand went to his jacket pocket. "Go away," he said, without opening. "Not yet," a voice answered. Young. Female. Too steady. Marcos pressed his eye to the people. A girl stood there. Thin. A jacket too big. A beat-up backpack. Eyes that calculated space, hallway time. She didn't look scared. That was the most dangerous part. "You're wrong," he said. "The person you're looking for doesn't live here." "He does." He pulled the inner curtain. "Don't play with me." Marcos. The name hit like old weight. He opened the door. "Not all the way." "Don't call me that." She took a breath. "Sorry, but I needed to be sure." He glanced down the hallway. Nothing. Open more. In. Now. She stepped inside. Marcos locked the door and pressed his forehead to the wood for a second longer than he meant to. "Who sent you?" "No one." "Lie." She slid the backpack off her shoulders. "Didn't sit. My father died 3 months ago." The air thickened. "He worked for Elias," she said. "Did the accounts." When he tried to leave, it was too late. The name woke something old inside Marcos. Something he kept buried under work and silence. Elias. The man who turned streets into cages. "I took this," she said, holding up a flash drive. "Before they got there." Marcos felt his stomach close. "And why did you come to me?" She held his gaze. "Because my father said you were the only one who got out after paying the full price." Silence spread through the room. "You shouldn't be here," Marcos said. "I know." Her name was Laura. 17. And that night was only beginning. Marcos went to the window and moved the curtain just enough to look outside. Cars passing. People coming and going. Normal. Too normal. "They already know you're here," he said. "I tried not to leave traces." No one leaves traces until they realize they did. Laura zipped the flash drive back into the bag like it could leak danger. "My father told me to look for you if something happened." "Your father shouldn't have said my name." She swallowed. "He didn't say it for safety. He said it out of desperation." Marcos thought of his brother, of desperation too, and of how he'd ignored it. The urge to throw Laura back out hit him hard. His oldest instinct: cut ties, cut risks, cut people. But there was something in her eyes that wouldn't let him simplify. It wasn't bravery. It was need. "Do you have anywhere to go?" he asked. "No." "Friends?" "No." "Family?" She hesitated, and that was the answer. "So you brought death to my door," Marcos said. Laura didn't flinch. "I brought mine. And it was coming with me anyway." The faucet drip sounded louder. Marcos closed his eyes. "Listen," he said. "From now on you do exactly what I say. No arguing. No improvising." Laura crossed her arms. "You don't command me." "I don't," he said, flat. "But I know how this works. And if you make one mistake, there isn't a second chance." She held his stare for a few seconds, then nodded. "Fine." He grabbed an old backpack from under the bed and stuffed a few things inside. A bottle of water, crackers, an extra jacket, a cheap charger. Laura watched every move. "You're prepared," she said. "I never stopped." The first knock came less than 20 minutes later. Not hard. not insistent, almost polite. Marcos froze. Lara's hand went to her zipper like she could seal fear inside. Marcos moved to the door without sound and looked through the peephole. A man too ordinary. Low cap, light shirt, relaxed posture for that hour. The knock came again. "Marcos," the voice said. "I know you're in there." His name sounded different now. Not surprise. Warning. Marcos stepped back and whispered, "Backpack." Now. They already know? They always knew. He opened the apartment's back door to the service stairs. They went down fast but didn't run. Running draws eyes. On the third landing, Marcos paused and listened. Footsteps in the hallway above. Muffled voices. They kept going. Outside in the alley, the air was wet. Old trash and gasoline. Marcos grabbed Lara's arm. "Don't look back." 2 blocks, then 3. Marcos turned without reason, shifted pace, stopped to tie his shoe, watched reflections. Across the street, a black car rolled by too slowly. He didn't need to see the driver. He felt it. The city changed when Elias wanted something. Lights stayed red too long. Cars appeared where they shouldn't. Ordinary people became too ordinary. "They're close," Marcos said. "How do you know?" "The air changes." Lara looked at him like it was madness. Marcos pulled her into a narrower alley and cut into an old industrial stretch. "Why didn't you hand me over?" Lara asked, walking fast. Marcos didn't answer right away. Because he tried to hand the pass to time. Time returned it. "Because I already did that once," he said. "And it didn't work." Maybe she didn't push because she knew some answers break more than they explain. They reached an abandoned building by a dead factory. Marcos forced a side door. Dust and old metal hit them. "This is too obvious," Lara whispered. "Exactly," Marcos said. "They'll look where it's easy first. Where there are people. Where there's noise. And here? Here there's nothing." They crouched behind a concrete stairwell. Marcos watched a slit in the wall that showed the street. Cars passed. People passed. For a moment, it seemed like they were imagining it. Then a white car rolled by. Stopped. Stayed. 2 men got out without hurry. They didn't look at the building. But Marcos's body screamed. "They know," he whispered. "They can't." They do when the silence shifts. The men walked the sidewalk, talking like they were heading to buy cigarettes. One glanced up, quick, measuring windows. The other looked down, like he was reading marks. Marcos had seen that before. "We move," he said. "Now? Now." They slipped out the back into a vacant lot. Marcos already knew the path. "You've been here," Lara panted. "Yeah." "With who?" Marcos didn't answer. "With his brother." They crossed into an old freight yard. Rusted tracks. Abandoned cars. Marcos stopped and listened. A distant engine. A quickening step. And above all, the feeling of a closing net. "They're closing," he said. "What do we do?" Marcos took a breath. "Do you trust me?" She hesitated. "I don't trust anyone." "Good," he said. "Then trust fear. It knows when to run." He pulled Lara under a dead railcar. Cold metal, filthy ground. Dust stuck to their clothes. They stayed still. Footsteps approached. Low voices. A radio hissed. "Sector 3 clear." Sector 4 nothing. Marcos's stomach tightened. Sector 4 was where they were. His hand squeezed Lara's without meaning to. She squeezed back. Time stretched. A minute became an hour. The steps stopped a few meters away. Someone spat. "She must have taken a cab," one said. "Or went into the market," another replied. "She doesn't go into markets. She runs." Silence. "And him?" "He knows the city." Marcos recognized that voice. Not the tone. the way it chewed words. The past rose in Marcos's throat like acid. "Demas," he whispered, so low he wasn't sure he said it. Lara looked confused. Marcos didn't explain. Demas was a name he'd buried with others. Partner. Friend. And in the end, the knife. When the footsteps drifted, Marcos eased them out. "Who's Demas?" Lara asked. "A man who should be dead." "And why isn't he?" "Because Elias doesn't let people die when they can still be useful." The flight kept going. They crossed neighborhoods like each corner could change fate. Marcos avoided main roads, cameras, light. Lara kept up, trying not to trip over her own fear. Near dawn, they ducked into a gas station bathroom, the kind that never closes. Marcos checked stalls and windows first. Lara washed her face and looked at herself. For a second, she seemed younger. Then her eyes hardened again. "My father wasn't a criminal," she said. Marcos shut off the tap. "He worked for criminals. He didn't have a choice." "There's always a choice," Marcos said. She pressed her lips. "Then why are you choosing this?" Marcos didn't answer. Because he was tired of running. Because for the first time in years, someone had shown up with a chance to change something. Because Lara was the age his brother had been when it ended. They walked to an old garage where mechanics got paid not to look. A gray-haired man with greasy hands opened a side door. "I don't want trouble," the man said. "You never did," Marcos replied. The old man squinted, trying to fit Marcos's face into a memory. "You?" "No," Marcos cut. "I just need a car for one night." The old man sighed. "Nothing is just for one night." Marcos gave cash. The old man gave a key. An old car. No alarm. No tracker. Marcos drove. Lara sat in the passenger seat. The engine turned over with effort like pain. "You drive well," Lara said. Marcos kept his eyes on the road. "I drive fast." "You were a driver." "Not a question. I did what I had to." "What did you do, Marcos?" He breathed. "I got people out of places they weren't supposed to be." "To do what?" "To stay alive a little longer." "And your brother?" She didn't say his name, but it was there. Marcos tightened on the wheel. "He was with me. And he died because of you." The sentence cut clean. Marcos didn't break, didn't shout, didn't deny. "Yes," he said. Silence. Marcos watched the city dawn in gray, like the world had no colors when you lived this way. He drove to a cheap motel on the city's edge. The receptionist didn't lift his head. Marcos paid. They went in. The room smelled of cheap cleaner and exhaustion. Lara dropped her bag and sat on the bed. Marcos closed the curtains. "You're going to sleep," he said. "I can't." "You'll try." He wedged a chair under the doorknob. Habit. He sat on the floor against the wall, eyes on the window. Their silence wasn't comfortable. It was heavy. Lara spoke first. "The flash drive has names, routes, payments. But my father said there was something bigger." Marcos didn't turn. "What?" "A key." "Key to what?" Lara pulled the flash drive out. "He said Elias didn't want just this. He wanted what this opens." Marcos's neck went cold. "What did your father leave you besides the flash drive?" "Nothing." "Think." She breathed. "He left me a recording on his old phone. A voice message." Marcos sat up. "You brought it?" "I did." She pulled out an old phone, screen cracked. "I didn't listen." "Not yet." "Why?" "Because I didn't want to hear him for the last time in the middle of all this." Marcos nodded. "We'll listen when we're safe." Lara laughed without humor. "And when is that?" Marcos didn't answer. Outside, a car rolled by slow. The engine sound lingered too long. Marcos lifted the curtain a centimeter. A white car. Two men. stopped across the street. He dropped the curtain. Up, he said. What? They found us. How? Because the city always sells you out. It just takes longer to collect. He cracked the door, checked both directions. Empty, he signaled. They ran to the car. Now running didn't matter. The white car started immediately. Marcos turned the key. The engine coughed, then caught. He took off. The white car followed. At the corner, another car slid in from the side. They planned it, Laura said. Elias always plans. The chase stretched into minutes that felt like a lifetime. Marcos took service roads, cut behind a distribution center, burst out onto a larger avenue. The white car stayed. So did the second. They have more people than I thought, Laura said. Elias doesn't send two cars when he hunts, Marcos said. He sends the city. He swung into a narrow street. The white car almost clipped a curb. Marcos felt the old car fished him. He held it, breathed, kept it. You're going to kill us, Laura said. No, Marcos said. I'm going to try not to. They shot down a street ending in a half-open iron gate. Marcos didn't slow. Laura started to scream. They cleared the gate by inches. Behind them, the white car slammed the gate and stopped. The second car made it through but lost time. Where are we? Laura asked. In the place where I stopped existing, Marcos said. An old bus yard. Rusted shells. Metal carcasses. He parked behind an old bus. We can't stay, Laura said. Just minutes. He peeked through a crack. The second car rolled in, searching. Marcos felt the old instincts take over. Stay down. Don't breathe loud. Ridiculous. It isn't. A man got out. Then the other. Demas. That walk. That calm, that kills. Marcos's blood went cold. Demas was alive. And he came to collect. Demas spoke into a phone. He's here, Demas said. I can feel it. Marcos clenched the knife in his pocket. Demas called out. Marcos. I knew you wouldn't manage to stay dead. Marcos stayed silent. Demas took another step. Elias wants the girl. But me? I want to talk. Talk, in Demas's language, meant extracting. You always thought you were the smart one, Demas went on. That you could leave whenever you wanted. Make promises and break them. Marcos shut his eyes. Promises. His brother. That night. Demas leaned his face close to the bus like he could hear breath. You know what's funny? Demas said. You didn't run from me. You ran from you. For a second Marcos almost stood. Almost. But Laura anchored him. Demas stepped away. No problem, he said. I've got time. And you always come back to where it hurts. Demas waved his partner. Let's go. He'll come out. The car started. Left. Marcos waited. 10 minutes. Then looked at Laura. We don't have another day. What does that mean? It means Elias knows I'm back. And he'll use everything I remember to pull me in. Laura tightened on her backpack. Then we leave the city. Marcos breathed. We try. They slipped out through back streets, moving like shadows, passing a morning market setting up, people living normal lives. Marcos felt envy. A bitter envy. Where now? Laura asked. First we disappear into a crowd. Crowds are dangerous. Best shield. They entered the bus terminal. Coffee, sweat, destinations on screens. Marcos bought 2 tickets to a nearby city. Cash. No name. No ID. Will it work? Laura asked. Nothing works, Marcos said. But we try. They sat in the waiting area. Marcos watched entrances. Men alone, men in caps, men not looking. You're shaking, Laura said. He hadn't noticed. It's the body, he said. It remembers. Boarding called. They stood, and Marcos saw him. A tall man near the snack bar, dressed plain, staring at nothing. But Marcos's body screamed. The man didn't look like he was searching, and yet he was. Marcos grabbed Lara and changed direction. "What?" she said. "They're here." "How?" "Elias buys people. And he buys time." They cut through a service door, downstairs, out onto a side street. Footsteps behind. They ran. Now it didn't matter. A car braked at the corner. Another appeared. The terminal was a trap they'd almost missed. "We were stupid," Marcos said. "No," Lara panted. "We were human." They ducked into an office building, upstairs to a maintenance corridor, pushed through a metal door. The roof. Wind hit hard. The city spread below, huge and different. "I can't," Lara said, legs weakening. "You can," Marcos said. "I'm afraid of heights." "Me too." She looked at him. "You?" "I'm afraid of falling back into the same life." Across the roof a lower building stood close enough. "You're going to jump," Marcos said. "You're insane. Either that or go down to them." A door burst below. Marcos ran 2 steps and jumped. Air vanished. He landed, rolled, pain in his shoulder, got up. "Now," he called. Lara ran. Jumped. She landed and almost slipped. Marcos caught her. "I did it," she whispered. Marcos didn't answer. He just held on. Men appeared on the first roof. Marcos pulled Lara and ran. Down an exterior stair, across a terrace, through a service hall, out to a different street. "You're bleeding," Lara said. He touched his shoulder. "Warm blood?" "Nothing." "It is." "No time." They moved into an older neighborhood of tight houses and small shops. Marcos knew a woman who sold food and knew how to keep her mouth shut. A window opened when he knocked twice. "I don't sell on credit," the woman said. "I'm not here to buy," Marcos replied. She opened the door a crack. Her eyes met his. Her face hardened. "You? I know. I heard you died." "I heard it too." She looked at Lara. "Who's that?" "Trouble." She sighed and opened. Inside smelled like rice and beans. A simple table. A TV low. "Sit," she told Lara. "You look like you'll drop." Lara sat. Marcos stayed standing. "You shouldn't have come back," the woman said. "I didn't come back. I got dragged." She snorted. "The past doesn't drag. It bites." Marcos nodded. "I need a favor." "I knew it. I need a place for her for a few hours. And a phone." The woman looked between them. "You're still running." "I'm trying to do it different." "Different how?" Marcos looked at Lara. "I'm not letting anyone else die." The sentence left before he could control it. And it hurt. The woman understood. "My name is Sonia," she told Lara. Lara nodded. "Lara." Sonia pulled out a first aid kit. "You're bleeding," she told Marcos. He tried to refuse, but Sonia yanked his sleeve and cleaned the cut with firm hands. "You were always terrible at taking care of yourself," she murmured. Marcos swallowed. "I never needed to." Sonia lifted her eyes. "You did. You just never learned." She handed him a simple phone. "If you're calling, call fast." Marcos dialed a number he'd sworn he'd never dial again. It rang. Once. Twice. A voice answered. "Hello." Marcos's chest tightened. "ISA." Silence. "Who is this?" "It's me." "No," she said. "I know. You don't have that right." "I don't." "Then why did you call?" Marcos breathed. "Because Elias is after a girl." "Elias," ISA repeated, and her voice changed. "He's back." "He never left," she said. Marcos tightened on the phone. I need a contact. Someone who can receive evidence. You want to take him down? I want to get a girl out of his sights. Silence. Are you alone? Marcos glanced at Lara. No. Who is she? It's a chance to do it right. Ayase laughed, not mockery, sadness. You always talk like that when you're scared. I am. Where are you? I can't say. Then why do you think I can help? Marcos breathed. Because you're still the only person who didn't let me die inside. Silence like a wall. Write this down, Ayase said finally. A journalist. Not a saint. But scared enough to be honest when pressured. Name, Renato. I'll send the contact. Thank you. Don't thank me, Ayase said. You owe me. I know. And this call doesn't erase anything. I know. Disappear after this. I'll try. He hung up. Sonia watched. You called her, Sonia said. I shouldn't. You never should anything. And you do anyway. Lara stared at him. Who was that? Someone I heard without touching. Sonia nodded toward Lara's old phone. You said there was a message. Lara swallowed. I have it. Marcos looked at her. We need to hear it. Lara nodded. She pressed play. Her father's voice came out low, full of static. Lara, if you're hearing this, then I didn't make it. Lara covered her mouth. I'm sorry I put you in this. The voice faltered. What you have isn't just proof. It's the door. He doesn't want the flash drive. He wants the key. Marcos' stomach clenched. The key isn't on the drive. Lara shook. I hid it in you. Marcos lifted his eyes. Sonia frowned. You remember that song I used to sing when you were little? The one you hated because I sang off key? Lara cried silently. The lyrics have the sequence. The right words. In the right order. You need to say it to open the vault. Marcos held his breath. Don't trust anyone. The voice dropped. And if you find Marcos, tell him I know. I know what happened that night. I know who pulled the trigger. And I know your brother didn't die by accident. Marcos felt a blade in his chest. Tell him Elias always wanted him alive. Because he always wanted the best driver. Lara sobbed. And tell him, you can still choose different. Static. End. Silence crushed the room. Lara cried low, trying not to make noise. Sonia breathed deep. Marcos stood still, staring at nothing. My brother didn't die by accident, he repeated. Sonia looked at him. You never knew? Marcos shook his head. I knew he died because of me. That's not the same thing. Lara wiped her face. What did he mean by pull the trigger? Marcos closed his eyes. It wasn't an accident. It was an execution. Lara's eyes widened. So Elias killed your brother. Marcos nodded, but it was smaller than the truth. Elias ordered it. Someone did it. Lara swallowed. Demas. Marcos didn't answer. Just breathed. Sonia put a hand on his shoulder. You need to go. Marcos looked at Lara. I need to get her to someone who can use this. And Elias? Marcos stared at the floor. He doesn't just silence. He controls. And he won't stop. Sonia opened the back door. You go down the side corridor, out through the neighbor's yard, and across to the back street. Marcos nodded. Lara stood with her backpack. Sonia looked at Marcos. You sure? Marcos answered with the only truth he had. I'm tired of running. They left. The back street was narrow and quiet. Marcos guided Lara through paths that felt invisible. You're really going to face Elias? Lara asked. I'm going to try to get you out of reach. And after? Marcos paused. After I pay. Pay what? Everything. Ayase's message arrived. A name, a number, an office address, and one note. Don't trust too much. Marcos memorized it and deleted. Who's Renato? Laura asked. A man who likes stories until he realizes the story likes him back. That means he'll help? It means he can, if he's scared enough. The day grew. The danger didn't shrink with light. Marcos brought Laura into a business district. People, guards, lobbies. A man in a cheap suit smoked outside, staring at his phone. Marcos felt the warning. Head down, he whispered. Why? Because he's not smoking. He's timing. They passed. The man didn't follow. 2 blocks later, a black car rolled slowly. Elias had eyes. Many. Marcos ducked into a building and took stairs. Elevators are slow traps. 3rd floor. Hallway. A door. Renato Lessa. Marcos knocked twice. Nothing. Again. The door opened a crack. An eye. Who is it? An old mistake, Marcos said. The eye narrowed. I don't work with poetry. I work with survival. The door opened. Renato was younger than Marcos expected. Trim beard. Eyes always measuring distance to the next exit. You're Marcos? Renato asked. Marcos didn't answer. Renato looked at Laura. And her? She has something Elias wants. Renato stepped back. Then you don't come in. We already did. Renato locked the door. I don't want to die. No one does. What do you have? Laura pulled out the flash drive. Renato's eyes widened. That's suicide. It's proof, Laura said. Proof kills more than guns, Renato muttered. Marcos watched the window. You know who Elias is, Marcos said. Renato swallowed. I know. I know what he does. Then you know he already knows we're here. How? Marcos pointed outside. A black car. Parked. He's there. Renato started shaking. You condemn me. No, Laura said. You can choose. Choose? Renato laughed. You talk like choosing is easy. It isn't easy, Marcos said. It's just inevitable. Renato stared at Laura. What do you want? Copy it and hand it to someone who can use it. Who? We choose. Fast. Renato sat, trembling. I know a prosecutor who hates Elias. Marcos didn't trust it. He hates him because he lost someone. He'll want this. Name? Renato said it. Marcos memorized. Copy it, Marcos ordered. Renato plugged it in. Folders. Spreadsheets. Names. Routes. Payments. Renato's throat bobbed. This brings down a lot of people. Only if someone has the nerve to use it, Laura said. The elevator sounded in the hallway. Marcos stiffened. They're coming out. No way. There is. Elias always has a way. The elevator stopped. Footsteps. Marcos grabbed Laura. Window. 3rd floor. Then we go down fast. Marcos opened the window. An exterior fire escape ladder ran close. Can you? He asked Laura. She looked down. Fear. She nodded. Marcos climbed out. Laura followed. Wind. Street far below. The office door burst. Renato screamed. Marcos dropped one level and pulled Laura. She slipped. Marcos held her. Men leaned out the window. There. Someone yelled. They reached the ground and jumped into an alley. Marcos pulled Laura and ran. Renato didn't come. A scream, then a thud. Marcos didn't look. If he looked, he'd stop. And stopping was dying. They sprinted into a parking garage, found a service exit, up a ramp, out to an avenue. A black car braked in front. Marcos cut right. Another car appeared. The net closed. He yanked Laura into a narrow street. They're going to get us, she panted. Not yet. A delivery truck sat with its back door open. 2 workers unloading. Marcos pulled Lara in. They climbed among boxes. Marcos dragged a tarp over them. The door shut. Engine on. Vibration. Lara held her, crying. Minutes later, the truck stopped. Door opened. Light. A worker pulled a box. Marcos saw a wide parking lot. When the worker turned, Marcos jumped, pulled Lara, ran. Confusion came too late. A service corridor. A side street. Sonia's phone buzzed. A message from ISA. They killed Renato. Marcos closed his eyes. Lara sank against a wall. It's my fault. It's Elias's fault. I brought this to him. You brought a chance. Elias hates chances. Lara shook. We can't just run. I know. So what do we do? Marcos thought of his brother, of Demas, of her father's message, and of the sentence he'd avoided for years. Someone has to stay. We make Elias come to me, Marcos said. That's suicide. Maybe. You can't. I can. And I will. Because if I don't, he'll hunt you to the ends of the earth. I don't want you to die for me. I'm not going to die for you. He paused. I'm going to live in a way I never lived. Sonia's phone vibrated again. A call. Unknown number. Marcos answered. A calm voice. Chewing words. Marcos. Demas. You're fast, Marcos said. I'm close, Demas laughed. I'm always close. What do you want? To talk. Talk is what you call betrayal. You still think I betrayed you. I don't think. Then come. Where? You know? The call ended. Marcos looked at Lara. He wants to pull me to the river yard. The place of your brother. The place I ran. We're going to do it different, Marcos said. And as the city kept moving like nothing was happening, Marcos felt it wasn't just a chase. It was a trial. And he'd finally decided to show up. The call dropped like someone cut the wire with their teeth. Marcos stood on the sidewalk, phone still at his ear, listening to his own heart hit too loud. Lara watched his face like she could read what came next. Maybe she could. Where? She asked. Marcos didn't answer right away. The city moved around them. Rushing people, horns, vendors, a kid chasing a ball. Normal. And under it all, the same invisible weight he'd known since before he learned to drive. He doesn't have to say, Marcos said. The yard. Marcos nodded. The river yard. The place his brother died. The place he avoided even in dreams. If we go there, they win, Lara said. They think they win, Marcos corrected. What's your plan? My plan is to stop doing what I always did. Run. Exactly. They walked without a clear direction for 3 blocks. Marcos didn't want a straight line. A straight line could be followed. He switched sides, went into a shop, out another door, crossed a small arcade. Where now? Lara pressed. Marcos stopped by a newsstand and pretended to read an old front page. A headline about a dawn robbery, like the world was still made of small tragedies. First, I need to get you away from me. That's funny, Lara said bitterly. That's exactly what my father tried. Look how it ended. Marcos felt it hit where it hurt. I'm not going to promise you safety, he said. I'm going to promise you movement. What kind of promise is that? The only one I can keep. He felt the warning at his neck. A dark car turned the corner too slowly. Not the same one as before. That made it worse. Switching cars was Elias's way of saying the hunt wasn't improvisation. It was routine. Come on. They cut through an auto parts store into a back metal door and down a narrow stairwell. Where does this go? She whispered. To the part of the city that doesn't show. A maintenance tunnel. Rust. Standing water. Old gurgling pipes. Why do you know this? Because I've needed to disappear from worse places. They walked 10 minutes, water up to their ankles in spots. City noise faded into drips and echoes. You're scared, Laura said. I always am. You don't look. I learned to look like something else. Marcos forced open a rusted grate. Beyond it, an exit into an old building's parking level. Cameras that likely didn't work. We go up, he said. To where? To the air. To confuse the scent. You talk like they're dogs. They're worse. They surfaced on a narrow street. The sky was darker now, clouds closing like they wanted to hide the city. You were going to take me out of the city, Laura said. I still will try. Then why not now? Because Elias isn't hunting you. He's hunting the possibility. Possibility of what? Of someone breaking the cycle. You talk like this is a story. It isn't. It's a bill. And he always collects. Sonia's phone buzzed. A message from ISA. You're heading somewhere you won't walk out of. If you're going to do it right. Laura watched Marcos's face change. Does she hate you? She has reasons. She loved you. It wasn't a question. Marcos didn't deny. She loved me when I still pretended I could be someone else. And you ruined it. I ran. Is running ruin? Sometimes. Rain started soft, like a warning. Marcos wrote down a name on a scrap of paper. The prosecutor's name. I don't trust him, Marcos said. But he might be the fastest channel. If he's bought, then we die sooner. You say that too calmly. I already died too early inside. My body's just late. They ducked under the shelter of an old bus used as a hideout. Marcos sat up front. The message, he said. I can't listen again. You don't have to. You have to remember this song. I remember. The lyrics? Laura nodded, and a tear slid down. He sang it when I was afraid to sleep. Marcos stayed quiet. And you hated it because he sang off-key. Laura gave a broken laugh. I hated it because I thought he'd always be there. Silence. Laura, Marcos said, you'll have to use it. I don't know how. You will when you have to. And if I mess up, then you mess up trying. Not trying is the easiest way to die. You talk like you always try. I tried to run. Why did you run that night? The question was a blade. Because I heard my brother say my name the way no one else ever did, Marcos said slowly. And I couldn't go back. That makes no sense. It does. I thought if I went back I'd die with him. And I thought dying was worse than living with guilt. And now you think living with guilt is worse. I'm tired. They flagged a taxi. The first refused. The second looked at Laura and refused. The third took the cash and said nothing. Marcos gave the prosecutor's address. The city slid by, rain shining on asphalt like the world was trying to wash itself clean. You're going to hand me over and leave? Laura asked. I'm going to hand you over and stay. Stay where? Where it hurts. At the prosecutor's building, the lobby was too bright, too clean. Cameras. Guards. Marcos slid a bill across the counter. Urgent. They were led upstairs. Prosecutor Afonso Nunez sat behind a desk, gray hair, hard eyes, old sadness at the edges. Who are you? Marcos set the flash drive down. This is for you. Afonso stared like it was poison. I don't take threats. It's not a threat, Laura said. It's proof. Proof of what? Elias, Marcos said. The name changed the air. Do you know what you're saying? I do. And you do too. Afonso put on a glove, picked up the drive. If this is a joke. It isn't. How old are you? 17. Why are you in this? Because my father died trying to leave. Name. She gave it. Afonso nodded. I knew his name in papers. never his face. You hate Elias, Marcos said. I don't have the luxury of hate. I have work. He took someone from you. Silence. Confirmed. What do you want? Protection for her. And you? Marcos didn't answer. This could bring down half the city, Afonso said. Then bring it down, Lara said. You think it's simple? Simple, no. Necessary, yes. Afonso looked at Marcos. A key? Marcos tightened. I know he has a vault, Afonso said. A digital vault. Not just money. Names. Offices. Protections. A password hidden in a song, Marcos said. Afonso led them to a small shielded room. No signal, he said. Lara trembled. If I do this, he knows. He'll know either way. Say it, Afonso told her. Lara recited the lyrics like pulling her father out of water. Afonso typed. The screen changed. Files. Lists. Photos. Audio. The whole city inside a hole. Afonso went still. It's this, he said. This is what keeps him on top. Lara cried silently. You did right, Afonso told her. Marcos watched the door. Too long in a clean place was danger. If you act, Marcos said, it has to be now. I'll move, Afonso said. Warrants. Seizures. Freezes. He'll run first. He won't run if he thinks he's winning. Marcos understood. So I'll give him that. You want to be bait, Afonso said. I always was. I just didn't know. Lara grabbed Marcos's arm. You'll die. Maybe. Don't. I already did worse. I ran. I don't want you to die for me. I'm not going to die for you. I'm going to live the way I should have since that night. Demas called me. Afonso's face tightened. Demas is alive? Then that explains a lot. Marcos looked at Lara. You stay with him. I don't trust him. You don't have to trust. You have to survive. You're abandoning me. I'm doing the opposite. I'm staying. Don't make promises now, Marcos said. I won't promise, Lara said. I'll remember. Marcos left. Demas called again. Tonight? The river likes to watch things sink. Marcos drove a borrowed van toward the river yard. The city thinned into dead warehouses and wet rust. He parked far and walked. The yard smelled of metal and river dark. A flash of memory, wheel in his hands, his brother beside him, the voice saying you promised. Not now. A car stopped behind him. Headlights. Demas's voice came from the dark. You always liked to come in without being invited. Demas stood there. Older, thinner, same eyes. You called me, Marcos said. I call the best part of me. You don't have a best part. I have survival. Where's Elias? You still think you talked to the king directly. I didn't come to talk to a soldier. I'm not a soldier. Then what are you? I'm the part you pretended didn't exist when you ran. He pointed to a container. He's here. Lara isn't with me. I know. Then why am I here? Because I want you to choose. I already chose. Hero? Demas mocked. You were never a hero. You were a tool. Marcos stepped forward. You killed my brother. Demas didn't deny. I executed an order. Elias ordered it. Elias ordered it. And you ran. I ran because I saw what I'd become. You already were. Cars arrived, lights cutting the yard. Men stepped out. And then Elias. He walked like the ground belonged to him. Older, heavier, still the posture of a man who never had to ask. I told you you'd come back, Elias said. You came to finish, Marcos said. You came to deliver. I didn't bring the girl. I know where she is. Marcos felt the ground drop. Demas showed a photo. Lara gagged in a car. Marcos's world exploded silently. Where is she? There. The container door opened. Laura, bound to a chair, bruised. Her eyes met his. Elias leaned close to her. The song. Say it. Laura shook her head. Marcos felt the knife in his pocket. He remembered the last time he stood still while someone got crushed. He moved. Elias raised a hand. If he moves, shoot. Marcos pulled out the knife. Guns rose. He lifted the blade. I didn't come to kill you, he said. You did, Demas laughed. I came to kill what I was. Marcos threw the knife away. Metal slid on wet concrete. Elias smirked. Pretty. Now the song. Marcos knelt. Not submission. Strategy. He lowered himself to Lara's eye level. Look at me, he whispered. When I say it, you run. Don't think. Run. Elias laughed. Giving instructions? Saying goodbye? Marcos pulled out a small screwdriver. Tool? Weapon. He drove it into the nearest man's knee. A scream. Gun dropped. Marcos grabbed it. The world broke. Shots. Shouts. Sparks off metal. Marcos kicked Lara's chair sideways, ropes loosening. Now! He yelled. He dragged her into the maze of containers. He knew the labyrinth. Not a map. A memory. They ran toward the van. A car blocked it. Demas stood there, gun up. Give her to me. No. You'll die for a girl? I'll live for a choice. Demas fired. The bullet screamed past. Marcos rolled with Lara. He fired back. Then the gun clicked. Empty. Marcos dropped it. Demas smiled. You always forget to count. Marcos attacked with his body. They collided. Fists. Blood. Metal taste. Demas pulled a knife. Marcos dodged. A cut burned his arm. Lara struggled behind them. Marcos saw her old phone on the ground. The song. The key. Lara, he yelled. The song. What? You have to say it again. To Afonso. To lock it and send everything. I already did. Not enough. Now you do it to let the world loose. Demas lunged. Marcos shoved him. The knife skittered away. Demas broke Marcos's nose. Marcos stayed. Stayed. Because staying was the choice. Lara picked up the phone. No signal. Call him. Call the number. She dialed. It rang. Demas tried to reach her. Marcos blocked him. Afonso answered. Lara, a voice. They're here. Say the sequence so I can register and lock access in the state's name. Lara closed her eyes and began. Words trembling. But true. Marcos held Demas like a door. Elias heard. His face twisted to fury. Kill her! A man raised a gun. Marcos saw the motion and did what he'd failed to do the night his brother died. He moved. He threw himself in front. The shot cracked. Pain slammed his shoulder. Hot. He didn't fall. He grabbed Lara with his good hand. Run, he whispered. She stared. Run. She ran. Siren wail rose in the distance. Afonso had moved. Elias backed away. Go! He shouted. Demas looked down at Marcos bleeding. For a second something flickered in his eyes. Not regret. Recognition. Like he was seeing a man do what he never would. Demas lifted his gun. Marcos watched. And Lara came back. She grabbed a fallen gun and pointed with shaking hands. No. Demas smiled. You won't shoot. I don't want to. Then learn. Marcos raised an arm. Lara, don't become this. She looked at him. Drop the gun. Demas blinked, startled. That was enough. Marcos surged and shoved Demas. Demas slipped on wet ground and fell near the edge. The river was there like a mouth. Demas looked up. You'll kill me? I could. You want to? Marcos saw his brother's face for a second. A clean, easy revenge offered itself. Marcos let go. I'm not carrying you too, Marcos said. Dimas didn't understand. He tried to grab the gun. Marcos reacted. He seized another gun and fired once. The shot hit Dimas in the chest. Dimas fell on concrete, eyes fixed on Marcos. No words. No excuse. Only the end. Marcos sank to his knees. Sirens closer. Elias ran to his car. Marcos tried to rise. His body refused. Lara knelt beside him. Marcos. You ran, he breathed. I came back. Now run again. Far. To live. I won't leave you. You already left me something. What? A reason. Police flooded the yard. Light slicing night. Orders shouted. Elias tried to flee. He didn't make it. Afonso arrived in a vest, face hard. He saw Lara. He saw Marcos on the ground. You did it, he told her. Ambulance. Hands pressing the wound. Marcos's world drifted. At the edge of black, he thought of his brother. For the first time in years, the memory wasn't a blade. It was grief. Grief meant he was still human. When he woke, the light was too white. Machines. Footsteps. A cop sat in a chair. You're awake. Where? Marcos started. She's alive, the cop said. Marcos closed his eyes. You're under arrest. Marcos nodded. Elias was captured. Dimas? Dead on sight. No satisfaction. Just a quiet emptiness. You'll be heard, the cop said. The prosecutor wants to talk. I'm not a witness, Marcos said. You're part of it. I accept. You won't run? I ran my whole life. It didn't work. You saved a girl, the cop said. I didn't save. I just stopped running. Days later, Marcos sat behind bars. Concrete. Silence. And still, something was different. He wasn't running. He was paying. The first night there was no nightmare. The silence came. And for the first time, it didn't crush. On the second day, Afonso visited with a thick folder. Elias? Arrested. No phone. No people. For now. And the city? Bleeding. Is that good? Necessary. Photos of raids. Seizures. Weapons. Money. Files. The key brought down more than I expected, Afonso said, and revealed more than I wanted to see. The world doesn't like to look in the mirror, Marcos said. You put powerful people in panic. Let them learn to feel. The girl is under protection. Does she know? She knows you're here. She shouldn't. She insisted. She wants to see you. No. You don't command anymore. I don't want her to carry this. Too late. Lara came a week later. Simple clothes. Hair tied back. A bruise still on her cheek. But her eyes were different. Not the eyes of a trapped animal. The eyes of someone who crossed night and came back. Marcos sat with his hands on the table. They stared in silence. You're alive, Lara said. So are you. I thought you'd die. Marcos didn't answer. I heard you breathing, she said. Trying to stay awake. I've stayed awake too long. Elias will get yours. Maybe. And you? I'll get whatever comes. It's not fair. Fair isn't always about who deserves less punishment. Sometimes it's about who finally stops lying. I still hear the song, Lara whispered. Me too. You told me not to become it. Not to shoot. I did. I wanted to. I know. I hate that you were right. I hate being right. I don't know what to do now. You live. And you? I stay. Is that what you meant? Someone has to stay. I thought staying meant losing. And now? Now I think staying is paying. And paying is what keeps the debt from being passed to someone else. My father. He tried, but he died. And still he tried. I wish I'd been gentler with him. Marco stayed quiet. I wish I'd been braver with my brother. You were brave now. I was late. Late is still time, Lara said. The words hummed like a shard of light. Ayase found me, Lara said. Why? To see if I was alive. And? She said you're not easy to forgive. She's right. Then she said you did something she waited years to see. You finally stayed. Marcos closed his eyes. The silence came. And for the first time, the silence wasn't punishment. It was acceptance. I have to go, Lara said. Go. Thank you. Don't thank me. Why? Because I owed. You didn't owe me. I owed my brother. Then I'll carry this with me. What? That you don't fix the past by running. You fix what you can by staying. She left. Marco stayed seated. The world outside kept moving. And for the first time in years, he didn't feel the urge to chase after it. He just breathed. That night in the cell, Marcos lay down. For 17 came. He opened his eyes. The memory came. The wheel. The scream. The silence. And over it came something else. Lara running. Alive. Free. Marcos closed his eyes. The weight was still there. But now it had shaped. And anything with shape can be carried. Sometimes change doesn't come with clean endings. Sometimes what saves you isn't escape. It's accepting the cost of doing what's right when no one will give you credit for it. Because true freedom isn't always running away. Most of the time, it's staying. And even wounded, choosing the good so someone ahead of you has a chance to live differently.